Uecker's longtime friend and former broadcast partner, working together during NBC's coverage of MLB All-Star Games, League Championships, and World Series in the 1990s. Fellow Hall of Fame broadcaster, Bob Costas.
Bob Uecker, broadcast partner for several years on NBC, was memorable. Being his friend for a lot longer than that. This meeting, yeah, he was one of the funniest people. In a very real way, many of you folks in the ballpark today, and countless other Brewer fans through the decades, whether they ever actually crossed paths with him or not, felt as if they had a friend in Bob Uecker. That incomparable voice of your team, but through all those Wisconsin summers, he was your friend. Since Bob's passing in January, there have been other celebrations of his life in other settings. But today, here in the ballpark, which was Bob's real home, the ballpark, this is the chance for all of you to say goodbye and thank you to your friend and to the man who, more than anyone else, personified your team, Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker. Up here on stage, as you can see, George Brett, Bud Selig, Brian Anderson, Christian Yelich, Robin Yount, Mark Atanasio, and Ted Simmons, and Hank Aaron, Robin Yount, Paul Molitor, and other Milwaukee baseball luminaries, Mr. Baseball. One thing. Upstairs in the press box, where the writers and broadcasters were, where you called Brewers games for more than half a century at County Stadium and then here. From this day forward, those who broadcast and write about Brewer baseball will do so from the Bob Uecker Broadcast Center. By the way, those of you who might be wondering about this setup, Bob was on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson close to 100 times. So this kind of replicates. I'm not Johnny Carson. I don't think George is Ed McMahon, and Bud is definitely not Doc Severinsen, but this is kind of like a Tonight Show situation. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to acknowledge the stages of Ueck's life by, in effect, taking him around the bases. First base is Bob's early life and career. Roll it.
You know, I was born and raised here. I went to Boys Tech here in Milwaukee. Yeah. They had a ballpark about 12 blocks from where I lived. 14 feet. After school, we'd get up there. After the 5th inning, didn't have to have a ticket anymore. Go up there at 3:30 in the afternoon. You'd catch maybe 2 innings of the game. You know, summertime, we were there every day. It was AAA baseball, but it was big league to us in Milwaukee. And then playing baseball, we didn't have Little League. That stuff wasn't around yet. We had a league called the PAL League, Police Athletic League. So we played in there until you were like 13 years old. Then you started playing American Legion baseball. But scouts were there, just like they are today at games.
I was kind of a hotshot pitcher in the Sandlot Leagues here, and I had been scouted by a couple of clubs. The Braves invited me down here for a tryout, and I must have thrown for 15 minutes, you know. I mean, I was really airing it out, and he said, "Now let me see your good fastball." You know, that was my good fastball. He said, "Kid, I advise you to get a job." We were playing a game up here at Whitfield with the catcher stuff on in a sandlot game. I enjoyed it. I really did. And that was my introduction to catching.
The first year I got to the big leagues was 1962. When I joined the Braves in spring training that year, I mean, the guys like Warren Spahn, Eddie Matthews, Henry Aaron.
When I got into a game, a spring training game, you know, I was able to catch Warren Spahn, and I mean, what a thrill. To me, that was the epitome of everything I ever wanted to do.
I was the first native Milwaukeean to play for the Braves. I was also the first native Milwaukeean to be sent to the minor leagues by the Braves.
After winning out in the National League race by a nose, the St. Louis Cardinals take on the Yankees in the World Series.
Johnny Keenan informed the coaching staff that I would not play in the World Series because of that incident where I picked the tuba up and was walking around. They had 3 Dixieland bands on the field playing prior to the World Series. And Roger Craig was standing alongside me. And the band that was playing left field put their instruments down. So there's a tuba laying up against near the bullpen. So Roger says, "You go put that on."
So I grabbed this guy's tuba, and I was catching fly ball.
I dented it. First I tried to get a trumpet on, and that was too small.
The Cardinals, the new world champions. That is one day St. Louis will never forget.
$8,600 and making sure I have a World Series. You know, really big time. Most of us have winter jobs to, you know, get a family especially. We had a chance at that time too to play winter baseball, which I did a couple of years. I went to Puerto Rico and played. I was there one more year before I got sent to Philadelphia and back to the Braves, where I became Phil Negro's personal chaser. I led the league in pass balls that year with 27. You know, I played for 13 years. I played 6 in the big leagues, and I didn't become an everyday player.
A pop foul. The catcher Uecker entered, and we have 2 down.
Being able to join the Braves after watching them as a kid, and then to be able to play well enough to at least get to the big leagues, that was what it was all about.
There's more to come. We're going to start here with Christian Yelich because he's got a game to play. So we're going to let him say what he has to say. Christian, just a week ago in Cincinnati, you used the Bob Uecker bat. It was Players Weekend, and they could wear the shoes they wanted to wear or whatever. And so the Bob Uecker bat worked pretty well for you.
Yeah, it ended up working out pretty good. I was supposed to use it last year during the Players Weekend, and that was right around the time where I had surgery. I wasn't able to play, obviously, but ended up making a couple bats. I think it was 3 or 4. And I was going to use one, we gave one to you. I think Shaw has one, and I think Louisville kept one for themselves. And this year during Players Weekend, it was obvious that I wanted to use it, was going to use it, and ended up hitting a homer. My first at bat was pretty cool. And had a good laugh with Shaw, who's our equipment manager, about that. And the next at bat I got blown up and had like a flare double right over like the third base bag, and we kind of joked that you probably would have liked that one better. And so it ended up working out great, and was debating using it the rest of the time for the weekend, but decided that it's better just to keep it intact with one game instead of swing at a cutter off the plate or something and have it be in like 3 or 4 pieces. So one and done, and it's really cool that it ended up going out that way. Obviously special memories with it. Glad it's on display somewhere here in the stadium.
Might as well let that bat retire as a hero. The 2 homers, and in that game, as you fans remember, Brewers down 8-0, come back, win 10-8. That's the 13th straight. Over more than 50 years as the voice of the team, I've heard so many Brewers, past and present, testify to this, but from your perspective, he wasn't just the Hall of Fame voice of the team, he was part of the team.
Yeah, I mean, he was like a player. He'd come in every day, hang out with us in the clubhouse, tell stories, eat lunch with the guys, whatever. It was just great to sit at a table with him, have him come in the locker room, and just talk about his life. He'd go into character and be Harry Doyle. And, somebody threw a wild pitch the night before, he'd go up to him and reenact it, or just
Charles! Been outside. Tried the corner in this.
His whole life was unbelievable, right? He did a little bit of everything. Telling stories about astronauts calling him from the space station to wish him happy birthday. It's the only guy that has that, right? But it was awesome, and we always really just cherished those times, whether it was your first day in the big leagues or you'd been there for 10 years, he treated you as though you were his friend his entire life. I think that was one of his real gifts, was making people feel like they were best friends and he'd known them forever. Even if you had no idea who you were his best friend, and just had a way of welcoming people. And we miss him every day, but he's still with us to some extent, and I think we all feel that.
You hired Bob Uecker. I mean, I know you made the Hall of Fame as the commissioner of baseball, but maybe your single greatest gift to the game was to make Bob Uecker the voice of the Brewers.
He did, and I'll tell you about the first thing I did with him after I hired him, made him a scout. Laughing, and you have a right to laugh. In the first scouting report that Bob sent back here, had mashed potatoes and gravy all over. And at that time, Frank Langer, general manager, said, "What am I supposed to do with this?" And I said, "He'll be all right." And in 1973, Yankee Stadium, Bob made his debut. And as you and I have discussed, what often isn't said enough, Bob became a Hall of Famer, great broadcaster.
Yes. Even if he never said anything funny on his pure play-by-play merits, he was a great announcer.
So we scraped off the mashed potatoes and gravy, and he became a Hall of Fame broadcaster.
Talking about him becoming a broadcaster and transitioning from a scout, he told me that in every one of his reports, he would list a guy as a borderline prospect.
Correct.
That way, if he failed, he wasn't that far off. If he became a great player, well, I said he was a prospect. Everybody was a borderline prospect.
That's exactly right, and that's what he did.
Let's seal it, folks. It's fair to say, we got Hall of Famers up here like Robin Yount and Ted Simmons, and Paul Molitor's up on the board, and Hank Aaron began his career in Milwaukee and concluded it with the Brewers, coming back here for his last couple of years. But the guy who might have been, over all the years, the biggest star of the team was Bob Uecker himself, even though he never carried himself that way. George Brett kind of represents the loyal opposition here, the great Kansas City Royal. What are your reflections on knowing Mr. Baseball?
I made my Major League debut in 1973. 1974, my first full year in the Major Leagues. Bob Uecker came up to me before one of the games, and I didn't know Bob Uecker. And for the next 20 years, Bob Uecker would come up to me, not only here, but in Kansas City, and we would spend 5 or 6 minutes together just talking. He was always Bob. People ask me about Bob Uecker all the time, and I say he's Bob. And they go, what do you mean he's not Bob all the time? I go, Bob is Bob. I have never met a different Bob. I really haven't.
Correct.
But I haven't been back to Milwaukee since 1993, my last year playing. And I got to thank the Brewers for inviting me. And I really believe if it wasn't for my friendship with Robin Young, that I've really gotten to know Bob a different way. I bought a home in Arizona about 9 years ago, and when the Royals moved to Arizona from Florida, Robin and Bob would invite me to dinner during spring training. One year I brought a young fella on our team, Joe Randall. Joe's from Milwaukee area. Robin Young was his favorite player. And I was having dinner with Bob and Robin that night and a few other players. And I brought Joe Randa and didn't tell Joe what we were doing and who we were having dinner with. To this day, it's Joe Randa's favorite dinner of his life.
Yes.
Because he loved Robin Young and he loved Bob Uecker. Since I bought my home in Arizona, now once or twice a year, the Youngs, the Bretts, and the Ueckers go out and have dinner. And my wife has fallen in love with the man. Never laughed so hard in all her life, and I'm going to miss those dinners. And again, Milwaukee, thanks for letting me come back and share some stories. I'm going to miss Bob as much as you all. Robin, what's his favorite dish at Don and Charlie's Frog Legs?
Frog legs. The only reason Don and Charlie's had frog leg was for you. No one else ever ordered them.
I ordered them that night, and I actually liked it.
I never would have thought of Uecker as a frog's legs guy. It's like hot cuisine. I thought of him as a brat and a beer guy.
You just got paid for that.
No follow-up.
You obviously didn't know him very well.
I thought I did. Well, beyond baseball, a lot of people came to know Uecker, the entertainment, all the appearances with Johnny Carson, from the Miller Lite commercials, from the Major League movies. So that brings us to second base. Uecker goes to Hollywood.
I had met one of the great trumpers in the world, Al Hurd. I was doing a job with him, and he told me, I'm going to get you on Tonight Show. I could call and flew to New York. I met a talent guy. He said, what do you do? I said, nothing. I don't know what to do. So I talked a little bit. He said, we'll get back to you. So a couple weeks later, they called me, and I went back and did the first show.
Would you welcome Bob Uecker?
I was really nervous. That guy was ready to go home first.
I haven't seen these myself. I'll tell you what, I'll go all over them all, and maybe you can look for the monitor. Obviously, it's a locker room celebration.
No, this is actually a picture of me getting ready for Yes, sir. Jason.
Jason. That is you down here?
Yes, that's me. That's my hidden ball. As we're saying goodnight, as I'm walking away, I hear Johnny say to Ed, did that guy really play baseball?
The book is, we're over 30 copies now. I'm not that good with a typewriter. When somebody buys one, we gotta type another one.
Tonight shows, the stand-up stuff, the commercial work that we did, all of them, I did them all. I'm not bragging about it. I did them because they were good for a laugh. You know, that's all it was. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere. Across the desert, read the mountains, man. Travel like that much, man. I've been everywhere. Here's what you're going to do. Quick turn around them. Minnesota, Buffalo, Toronto, Minnesota, Sarasota, Wichita, Tulsa, Ottawa, Oklahoma, Tampa, Panama, Manitoba, Oklahoma, Baltimore, Salvador, George Owens, and this is Sports Wrap. Hi, I'm Lynn Belvedere, and I like to start breakfast. I didn't ask them to do that, so they came to me, and why not? Streets on the China, have a letter okay. There were 6 years, then fly from Hollywood over to spring training, do the weekend baseball games, and then fly back down and be in the studio Monday morning. By Thursday, you should have your script memorized. That helped me do baseball too. So remember names and remember games. I think doing the show really helped. Hello again, everybody. Harry Doyle here.
I've enjoyed doing what I do, the film stuff. When I go to Cleveland, they don't even call me by my name. They call me Harry Doyle. Those players, they call me Harry Doyle.
Born into the land of his first upbringing. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
It's a pleasure to buy beer for a great pitcher like Whitey Ford. Hey, Whitey, I thought you were lucky. Oh, that's right.
Big leaguers getting freebies to the game. Call the front office, bingo. And once these fans recognize me, I probably won't even have to pay for my light beer from them. These fans know I'm free right because it's less filling and it tastes great. Didn't see it, sir. We're in the wrong seat, buddy. Oh, I must be in front.
Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
I don't care how big you are. Once your days are gone by as a player, you know, things are kind of shaky. And you see those spots run sometimes 3 and 4 times a day during major sporting events. You know, it's a big boost.
All that front row stuff, or you missed the tag, all those things have become part of Americana. They really have. Bro, I've been in the front row my whole life, man.
Last I checked, Doc Severinsen in his late 90s is still with us. He was here at age 85 when we dedicated the first statue for you outside the ballpark. But there are a few people who connect to Bob's career outside baseball. From the Major League movies, Skip Graparis and Willie Mueller are here in attendance. And I drop in money, they don't call him the best color man in the league for nothing. From the Belvedere cast, Tracy Tofty and Bryce Beckham. And for those of you watching on TV, you will hear from those folks I just mentioned during inning breaks with Brian Anderson and Bill Schroeder during the course of the game. Okay, from second base to third base, let's take a look at least an overview, of you as the baseball broadcaster.
Bob Uecker, you've sort of moved out of playing in the baseball. You're in the front office. You're also doing some of the broadcasts with Milo Hamilton and Ernie Johnson.
If I said I didn't miss playing last year, I'd be telling the story because I really did. But I think every ball player figures that he can go on forever. You just don't realize that sooner or later the time's going to come to an end. This is Bob Uecker of the Atlanta Braves. The 1969 baseball season is right around the corner. I'm inviting you to join Milo Hamilton, Ernie Johnson, and myself for all Braves telecasts here on Channel 11 in Savannah. I worked for a couple of years there, and then I was doing New York Writers Week. And Bud Selig was there, and we went out after the dinner, and he offered me a job to come back to Milwaukee the following season, and I did.
It was more nerve-wracking for me to work radio broadcast because I kept thinking about my friends up there. What is he doing? We all grew up together. He's on radio. He stinks. And the two guys I worked with, Merle Harmon and Tom Collins. I was comfortable with them. I sat between them. I did one inning. I did the fifth inning of play-by-play. I had never done anything. Never done nothing. They left me alone in Yankee Stadium playing the Yankees. My fifth inning comes up. Merle says, "Here's Bob for the fifth." And they got up and left. And they were standing way over there, and I could see it. I begged them to come back and sit with me. I was scared, unbelievably scared. And the engineer finally said, "You better start talking because there's one out." I don't think I've ever said a bad word about a player in my whole life. Never, never. You know how tough it is to play. There's always a way to get around mistakes without ripping. You know, I did the Denmark stuff, and I told them right away, if you're looking for a guy that's going to, rip the players, talk bad about them, I'm not your guy.
ABC's Monday Night Baseball. On the field to talk with Bob Uecker. Thank you very much, Howard and Carl Yastrzemski. Home run number 400 is going to put you in a very select group.
Well, I would have to agree with you, Al, but if there's going to be heat on any one person today, I'm sure there's going to be heat on both these ball clubs.
Watch, he'll open his glove to get the knuckleball grip, to put his knuckles, dig his knuckles into the baseball. You don't have to do that if you throw a fastball or a slider. See what he does here. There it is.
You guys ready for this?
Absolutely. Let's go, baby.
World Series. Let's go.
You guys came out to L.A. with Belvedere, and we went out to eat, and they offered me a job as the Yankee broadcaster, right? The only reason I was doing it was to find out what kind of money these guys were making in New York. I was walking into no radio.
When you do radio, and you look around the ballpark, you don't have to have stories, you don't have to have stats, you don't have to have anything. I mean, if the game warrants something other than what's going on, I do that. If you got a good game, I don't think people want to hear some guy making fun and telling jokes.
We're going to smash up the middle. Base hit to center. Here comes Romano. Around third. A throw and the Brewers win. Get there he goes. The pitch. A swing of fly ball. Right field and deep. Get up and get out of here.
I called his last home run. It was unbelievable.
Here's a pass. Get out of here for Henry.
Henry Aaron has just get out of here. Number 3,000. Base hit to right field. That's number 1.
Back in against Mesa, who is working from the windup. The 0-1 pitch. Swings it out there. He's got it. 3,011.
playing kids, it makes me feel good. It really does. I know what I'm doing to a lot of people. I love baseball. I really do. I love doing radio. I love hanging around with the guys, being down the field. I don't really consider this a job.
Now, representing my colleagues, Brewers Television and Brewers Radio, because I got a message from above that said, Mr. Costas, your audition is over. We wanted to turn the tables on Bob Costas here because you knew him so well and you've done such an amazing job hosting not just today but also back in April for our event. Bob Costas has really sunk everything he's had into this. He's not just here reading scripts, he's curated a great part of all of this, but we wanted to give you an opportunity to tell us about Bob Costas, the broadcaster.
Well, not about me, but about my partnership with Uecker. And luckily, I'd known him for a while prior to when we first got together in the mid-90s. So I was familiar with a lot of his anecdotes, and if a circumstance allowed for it, I'd kind of throw him a batting practice fastball, and he'd hit it out of the park, and then give me the fist bump, you know, because I took him to third base, and then he brought it home. But he was such a good broadcaster, as the Commissioner mentioned earlier, on his own merits. Even without the Mr. Baseball persona, he was just damn good. I mean, listen to these calls, how great those calls were. That's what made him a Hall of Fame broadcaster. Some of the people here will remember it, whether it was in spring training in Arizona, or if I happened to be here in Milwaukee or some other city where the Brewers were playing, I'd come up and do 3 or 4 innings with him. And the premise always was that I was auditioning to be the third guy in the Brewer booth. So I'd have to start calling the game, and then he'd slip and go, oh, real good. Hey, you look a little tight. Loosen up. You know, that was our shtick, and people seemed to like it. And the last time we did it was September of 24. I knew this would be Ueck's last season behind the mic, and it came up the last week of the regular season, and we did the same thing again. And it was poignant. You know, Ueck, there was a lot more to Ueck than the public persona, as great as it was. There was a lot of heart. And like all of us, there were ups and downs in his life, but he didn't wear that on his sleeve. Even as he was going through his cancer treatments and whatnot, if he came to the ballpark, he wasn't up to it every day or night, but when he came to the ballpark, he was Mr. Baseball with a smile on his face and that vibrancy in his voice. But you could tell toward the end that he sensed that this was the end of his baseball life. And as painful as it was when the lead slipped away against the Mets in the playoffs, if you listen to the last words that Bob spoke, that was like his baseball valedictory. He was saying goodbye to his profession, to the game, to Milwaukee. And it was very touching.
It was even though he had a lot of fun, gave us a lot of laughs, he also took his craft very seriously. I never had a broadcasting conversation with Bob Uecker. We had life conversations, philosophical conversations about how to be in the ecosystem of a Major League Baseball team. One of my favorite things about Bob Uecker, when I got the job here in Milwaukee, my partner Bill Schroeder said, make sure you're on the 4 o'clock bus on the road, because that's where Bob Uecker's comedic genius comes out in full ad-lib with whatever he sees on the way to the ballpark. But a lot of those stories were all the practical jokes he used to play on famous announcers, namely Bob Costas. Probably doesn't know where his meticulously prepared notes went for a World Series game for 2 hours. Certain things, his earpiece, why they were always missing, why he was getting wake-up calls at 2 in the morning at the hotel. I thought I'd share that with you now. The World Series! And that's why it's so great to have you here. I'm taking over hosting role just for this bit to thank you, Bob Costas, for being here for Bob Uecker.
been his friend for as long as I was, and there isn't a single person on this stage that in their own way wouldn't say the same thing.
Amen to that.
Josh Mauer, just starting out in his career upstairs, and Lane Grindle, and Jeff Levering up in the booth. The engineer and producer on every broadcast, Ken Sommerfeld, who picked us up.
He was a great mentor that way, and he left that legacy with us as broadcasters, and we try to carry that tradition, and we try to have a lot of fun, as you know, and this is a special day to bring this all together. And now I'll return you to your position as MC. Costas, your audition is back on.
Well, folks, it's not necessarily a mutual admiration society, but it is sincere. Not just as the television voice of the Brewers, but the games on TBS, the NBA games, March Madness games, now golf and tennis. It is only a matter of And now, Uecker is rounding third and heading for home. Let's talk about specifically his life as the voice of the Brewers.
When I came back here as a member of the broadcast crew, I also threw batting practice every day. And I did that for 20 years, 25 years. And the three guys that I had, Robin Young, Paul Mulliker, Don Money, Cecil Cooper once in a while. But I did it every day. I did it on the road, would throw to those guys, go shower, change, and then go up and do the game. Even with all the other stuff that I did, this was always a place for me to come back to. Our ownership group, Mark Antanasio, Buddy, they turned into be great friends. It's a different perspective when you're more than just a broadcaster. I mean, when you're down in the clubhouse with them every day, you're in uniform every day. I was in uniform more then than when I played. You become more than friends with these guys. You hear about family problems sometimes. You hear about game problems. You know, you're doing games every day. And when things aren't going right for the team, you're with them. They expected me to be with them after the game, no matter where it was. I was with them all the time. They bought me a pair of their shoes last year. And on the back of the shoe it says, "One of us."
This conglomeration of Brits that are here today, a lot of them were teammates, but they won't admit it. They were. They are wonderful friends and always will be. To all of you baseball fans around America and any place else, for your letters, your thoughts, your kindness for all of these years. It's been a great run. It's been a wonderful, wonderful time.
Ted Simmons, Cardinals. But then, he joined the Brewers. It was a big part of the pennant push in 1982. Had a big World Series against his old team, the Cardinals, in '82. And when you arrived in Milwaukee, Ted, you didn't know the league. You'd been in the National League. The Brewers had just switched over to the American League. You were kind of a fish out of water, and Uecker was helpful to you, right?
Yeah. He had history that I knew, but he didn't know I knew it because he broke the ice when I first came to Milwaukee. He approached me and he began by saying, "Hi Ted, I'm Bob Uecker. I used to," and I thought he'd say, "play Major League Baseball." He didn't say that. He said, "I'm Bob Uecker. I used to." Cardinals. And I said right away, I know that. It's kind of surprising, but I knew it. He was there in '64 when the Cardinals ended up winning everything. And he was on that team, beat the Yankees that year, and I knew it. And he opened a dialogue, almost essentially the first guy who welcomed me to Milwaukee as a person I trusted. And I trusted him because, one, he was a former major league player. A lot of people don't ever focus on that. And although he was always diminishing his own kind of contribution as a player, as part of his stick, which was great. When you back a catcher at the major league level for 6 years, you live and die every game because you never know where you're going to get to play. We had at Yost here when I was here, and Ned got to play. And guys like Jimmy Lee, now recently, selected to the Hall of Fame. He's a backup major league player. People don't realize how serious a role that is because you're forced to learn the game of baseball. And people never focused on that. But I knew that when I got here, he knew and understood what I needed to know. And with a brand new ball club, with names like Mata and Young and Cooper and all the rest, just a fish out of water, I should say, trying to assimilate and convince these guys that, we could go a long way with this. And so Uecker could rely on talk baseball with, and we did. And there were a couple of players on this team that I needed help with. Because we had one pitcher who had just an atomic pitch. All he wanted to throw was that pitch. Can't survive at the major league level. And another one do the same thing with a different pitch. I said, I got to know about these guys. And he enlightened me. And I could go to them and tell them, look, this is what's got to be done. And he told me, be careful because these two guys, get them warmed up a little too much to talk to them, they'll come after you. So, gave me insights that needed to be given. And when I wanted to talk to somebody about Major League Baseball, Major League level, I'd go to him. And he helped me carefully and introduced me literally to this town of Major League Baseball.
Let me correct myself here, otherwise we won't be able to sleep tonight. As you all know, obviously the Brewers started out as an American League team when Bud Selig brought the Seattle Pilots here, and then as commissioner he made the right move. It made sense geographically and historically, given the Braves having been here, to move the team to the National League, where it now resides atop the National League Central. But American League Brewers versus the National League Cardinals in '82. Mark Attanasio now owns the ball club and has almost everybody here can say, in one way or another, a very close relationship with Bob Uecker.
Thank you, Bob. Before we launch in, I just want to, on behalf of the organization and the community, echo BA's thanks for your coming here and importantly being such a good friend to Bob and his family.
The floor is yours. Your thoughts on you.
I know we've got a game to play. Commissioner Selig often would say to me when I was talking to him and the game was about to start, there's a game you're going to... I'll just share my first meeting with Bob. To my surprise, I was chosen to be the next steward for the club here. First two calls I made were Bob Uecker
and Robin Young. And I can reliably report got a much quicker response from Robin Young. But what I didn't know, frankly didn't know until Bob passed, Bob Jr. shared with me, is that you thought that this might be the right time for him to transition to doing something else. And so he was a little hard to get, but it was really because he wasn't sure it was the right thing for him. But Wendy still was the president of the team then, who you called chief. Bob, you've got to meet with Mark, even if it's just 30 minutes. So when we had the ownership meeting in Scottsdale to vote on my ownership, we met in a bar in Scottsdale at a hotel. And before I even sit down, you said, you've got 30 minutes. That became a 3 to 4 hour meeting and the start of a beautiful friendship. Friendship not just for me, but for my wife Debbie, our sons Dan and Mike, my parents Connie and Joe, and our whole extended family. And I think one of the things that captures my heart about this year's team is the t-shirt they wear says, "Power of Friendship." And you embodied that every day. Everybody in this stage, all kinds of folks in the front row and in the community, including Lorraine in the third row here who works upstairs in the commissary. So I'd say, God bless you.
Yeah, well, Robin, it gets emotional when the subject is you. So I was just kind of trying to get the wink and the nod from him that he was good to go. So I'll just give you this, and you take it wherever you want to go. I think all the great announcers. One of the greatest of the great. Of course, the players loved him and respected him. Vin Scully in Los Angeles, Ernie Harwell in Detroit. But it was somehow different with you. He truly was a member of the team. Robin, turn it around.
Luke showed me that one. I promise you I'll keep this short and sweet because I'm not sure how long I'll be able to go. But I just want to tell you, I met you in 1974. Up until he passed in 2025. He was the same person. Through all the things he accomplished, we've seen much of it on the screen today. But he never changed throughout all those years. He just loved making people laugh. Right to the end. He told me he wasn't afraid of dying. Just didn't want to be there when it happened.
Now I'd like to invite members of the Uecker family, Judy, Sue, Bob Jr., Kathy, Emily, Kelsey, and Becca, to walk out toward the mound. And Robin, you're going to grab a glove because you will catch the first pitch from Bob Jr. Hold on, Bob. You can warm up. You can warm up. You're about to get some company here. As you notice, every player and coach not wearing their own name on the back of the uniform. They all say you. Now, Robin, for a team, family, or group photo. Thanks to everyone who joined us on the stage with their remembrances today. Our thanks to all of you who are fans for being here to honor you. The whole ball club. Of Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker.
Of all the things that I've done, this has always been number one, baseball.